What's going on, guys? My name is Kalen Vasher, and you are now tuned into another episode of the Kalen Vasher Show. Before we get started, as always, just want to give a quick shout out to everybody listening. As always, you guys are much appreciated. And as always, if you want to connect with me and talk about anything basketball or sports in general, my social media links are on the screen down below, as well as down below in the description box. We're here for one reason and one reason only, and that's to talk about the certified ASS whooping that the Miami Heat just put on the Boston Celtics. If you watch my last video, I vaguely stated that I thought that the Celtics would walk away from Miami with at least one win, and I predicted that win to be Game 3. Now here we are after Game 3. Celtics might get swept. They don't even seem like they're putting up a fight. And that's kind of my main leading point that I wanted to start this video off with today. Just the sheer, they didn't care, it looked like, whenever I was watching the game. Marcus Smart seemed out of it. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown only combining for 26 points. They were the only two starters to score in double figures. I don't know what happened tonight. I wish I could tell you. I kind of touched on it in my Lakers and Nuggets Game 3 recap. They didn't seem like they wanted to play. They seemed like they were comfortable down 2-0, like they weren't on the road, and they're facing a critical, like this was a critical Game 3 where you could be facing elimination on Tuesday. So I just don't understand the Celtics or the Lakers not playing and not giving it everything that they had, not diving for loose balls, not doing the little things, not fighting harder to get through or get off of offense or get off of box out opportunities to get offensive rebounds. It just blows my mind how teams, and I could be wrong. Maybe the Heat were just that good and I could be all wrong, but from the outside looking in and what we could see on TV, it just seemed like they were never fully interested in playing the game and that they would rather be somewhere else. And that's utterly that can't happen. It cannot happen whatsoever. Keeping on with Game 3, the Seas shot 26% from three-point land, and that's something that's kind of been their bread and butter throughout the whole playoffs, is being able to knock down the three-point shot. And so now that Miami, who is always looked at as the team that has capable shooters, but they make their money by getting to the lane, getting to the free throw line. The fact that they outshot the Celtics tonight is also, that cannot happen if you want to win games. But the main thing that I wanted to talk about on here today, which is probably going to take up majority of this episode, is just the fact that Celtics fans, this Jaylen Brown, this Jason Tatum little experiment that we've had the past few years, it's done for. It's over with. And so now the Celtics need to decide who they want more. I don't think it's a question that they would rather keep Jason Tatum over Jaylen Brown, but it's over. Even if you somehow come back from 3-0, just the fact that you were down 3-0 in the first place, I don't think that there's any room for that. I can sense that Jaylen Brown wants to be his own player, kind of like how we've seen with Kyrie. He wanted to be the main guy. That didn't work out too well for Kyrie, or it hasn't worked out too well for Kyrie since leaving the Cavs. But I can see a similar situation. I can see Jaylen Brown looking to get out this summer. Where he would want to go, I don't know. If I had to make an early prediction, I would predict that Jaylen Brown goes to the Atlanta Hawks this offseason, goes home. He is from the Atlanta, Georgia area. And so just when you put everything together, I think that we have to call this run of these two young superstars a failure. They didn't win a championship. The memes have already started to come with the Jaylen Brown and Taylor Rooks interview that happened a few years ago when Jaylen Brown said he wanted to win such and such many championships in this many years. And so I say this about a lot of things, but with this situation, it is truly unfortunate because they were one of the best duos in the modern NBA. They still are. But just from my point of view, I don't see how this goes on any longer. I don't see how either one of the two guys is okay with this going on even longer. Even if you're Jason Tatum, you at some point have to be like, this is really my team. I can't share this team. If I want to ascend to that next level of superstardom and becoming one of the best players of this generation, Jaylen Brown has to get out of my shadow, and you have to be able to let him walk. I'm already almost positive there's not going to be any beef unless something happens this offseason and words are exchanged. But you can honestly tell that those guys are really, really good friends. They enjoy playing with each other, but just from a basketball standpoint, it hasn't worked out, and you have to go your separate ways. Um, what do the Celtics do from here on out? I kind of touched on it in my what was that? Game two, game one recap, whichever one it is. I will make sure to link it down below. But I kind of touched on what the Celtics could look to do and some moves that they could look to make. But there's a lot of players that the Celtics, or at least two in my mind, that come to mind when I'm talking about the Celtics, quote unquote, rebuilding, because it's not going to be a full rebuild. But it's really just, what do they do with Grant Williams and what do they do with Jaylen Brown? Again, I would be astronomically shocked if Jaylen Brown is playing in the Celtics uniform again next year. But who knows? It's the NBA. We didn't think Russ was going to be playing in the Lakers uniform this year, and we see how that went up until the trade deadline. So, again, it's just really unfortunate. It's kind of bittersweet because I know both guys are finally going to get the opportunities they need to showcase their skills and showcase who they are as true number one players. But again, like it's sad because this young roster that they've had and the community that you can feel that they've built between Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. Um, now where do the Celtics go from here? So it's going to be really, really interesting to find out. Now transitioning on to the Miami Heat side of the game, fantastic, utterly fantastic. Kind of like how I've been talking about the Nuggets in the Western Conference. Utterly fantastic, just playing basketball, and you can tell that they're not satisfied. Gabe Vincent even said, this isn't the first of 3 wins. This is the first of 4 wins. And he had an excellent night last night, having 29 points. So it's really cool to see the Miami Heat be able to do what they've done, especially because a lot of people thought that the bubble was a fluke. I'm here to tell you now the bubble was not a fluke. All 4 teams from the bubble are back in the conference finals, and we're seeing that the Miami Heat are actually a true contending basketball team, even though they do not have one solidified MVP caliber superstar. Jimmy is a superstar, but will we put him in the MVP stratosphere, top 5-7 player in the NBA? Don't know if that's the case. Even though Jimmy, when he turns it on, he's definitely a top 5 to 7 player in the NBA. But again, like being able to achieve the success that they've been able to do this season, and really in the past few seasons, really just having Jimmy as your number 1 and Bam as your number 2. But the role players for the Miami Heat have stepped up in such a big way for not only this year, but for the past several years. And I think that's something big, and that's something that a lot of teams might look to duplicate this summer. You might go away from paying 2 superstars max contracts and look to get your 1 solidified star and then find a lot of key role players that fit into his play style, because that's what the Miami Heat have done, and they've obviously had success doing so with it. So really, really interested to see how teams adjust their rosters just based on how much success that the Miami Heat have had. Again, Duncan Robinson had 22 points last night. And I'm going to tell you right now, if Duncan Robinson and Gabe Vincent are getting off for about 20 plus a night, you can go on chalk game 4 up. If they do it again, we can go on chalk this series up. You're just not going to beat the Miami Heat, because the fact that Jimmy only scored, 16, 18 points last night, was able to rest a lot in the fourth quarter to get right for game 4. Kevin Love is still probably going to be questionable. I heard he went out with an ankle injury and did not return. So when we look at the grand scheme of things, the Miami Heat weren't even at their best last night. A lot of role players stepped up and gave really good, valuable minutes to the point that they didn't have to, their superstars didn't have to be fantastic. But the fact that they were able to still dominate the game, because this game easily could have been won by 30, 40 points before the subs started coming in towards the end of the fourth quarter and putting up a few buckets for the Celtics to ultimately get the win down to 26. This could have been a lot worse. They're actually happy that this wasn't a lot worse. And Game 4 is going to be interesting to me. Early Game 4 prediction, I still got to stick with it and say that the Celtics will end up pulling out a game. I don't see how the Celtics just get swept unless Jimmy comes out and has 65 points. Because I don't think Gabe Vincent will replicate a 29-point game again. I don't think Duncan Robinson will have a 20 or 22-point game again, even though they're more than capable of doing so. It's kind of bittersweet because there's going to be a lot of change coming in the NBA. I think the NBA landscape is changing to where we're going from you don't necessarily have to have the best players. We went from like the super team era to everybody having their quote unquote true superstars to who knows where we're going to be at in the NBA next year and even for the next 10 to 15 years. So it's bittersweet because a lot of the good teams and a lot of the good players are getting a little bit older. They're going to be out of the league here in the next few years, but it's also really exciting because I think that this is where the page really starts to turn and we start seeing younger guys come through the league and start to make their impact their way. So, again, Game 4, big game. Early prediction, the Celtics pull Game 4 out. I said the Celtics will win Game 3, so maybe I should say the Miami Heat should win Game 4, and the Celtics might surprise me. But we will see. Very, very quick Game 3 recap because, quite honestly, there wasn't too much to talk about. It was just utter domination for 4 quarters from the Miami Heat. So I wish I had more for you guys, but I also wish the Boston Celtics gave me a little bit more to work with. But again, that's all I got for you guys today. Be sure to tune in tonight as I will have another video coming up tonight, May 22nd, probably late at night, recapping Game 4 of the Western Conference Finals, whether or not the Lakers pull out a game and are able to extend the series or whether or not they get swept and what that means for LeBron's legacy, as well as a few finals predictions coming into the fold. Because if both teams, the Nuggets and the Heat, do close out their respective series in 4 games, we'll have a little bit of a break. We'll go from the Celtics and then play tomorrow, so May 23rd. So from anywhere from May 24th to June 1st, we won't see any basketball. So there'll be a lot of new content coming during that time. There'll be a lot of broader content coming, a lot more draft content coming during that time, just because I'll finally be able to sit down and not just recap games every single day. But I really am enjoying this. I hope you guys are enjoying it as well. Again, if you want to connect with me on social media and talk about anything basketball or sports in general, I'm not just a basketball guy. But if you want to connect with me, my social media links are, again, down on the screen and down below in the description box for those of you watching on YouTube. And until next time, I'll see you guys.